Welcome to the Lazy CEO podcast, where Jim Schleckser, author of Great CEOs Are Lazy and founder of the CEO Project, features compelling experts and topics for CEOs of mid to large size companies. Now, let's get started with the show.
Welcome, everybody, to another Lazy CEO podcast. My name is Jim Schleckser. I am your host and the founder of the CEO Project. I have with me today a really interesting guest. John is somebody I've known for a couple of years now. We kind of got together, but the reason why is he is in the same business that we are at the CEO Project. He runs a business called CEO Global Network out of Toronto, and he's been at this for a while. And I thought it would be really interesting to have two people that have been coaching CEOs, hundreds and maybe thousands if you add it up over time. Just have a little chat about, what have we learned? What have we seen and so forth. So John, welcome.
Hey, it's great to be with you, Jim. Just great to be with you. Thank you for the invitation.
Oh, of course. Yeah. So John was saying earlier, he and I chat regularly, and he said, it's basically like taking one of our chats and recording it. And that's more or less what you're going to get today.
We got,
Well, this should be fun. So John, why don't we just start with, when you engage with CEOs and your businesses, let me start with just a little bit about your business. I don't think it's particularly different than mine, but let's just share, what do you guys do at CEO Global Network?
Yeah, well, Jim, it's very similar to what you do. We bring CEOs together to learn from each other, right? I mean, it's all about the power of a peer group, right? And tapping into the wisdom of other people running businesses real time, right? And our tagline is we're CEOs helping CEOs succeed, and that's exactly what we do. And we've been doing it. We're celebrating our 15th year. Hard to believe, eh? And Jim, you know this, but we'll tell everybody on the call that I started this company at age 67. Okay. 15 wonderful years ago. Yeah. And I plan to do it as long as I possibly can, because number one, I get a heck of a lot out of, from the people I have the privilege of working with and meeting guys like you along the way and Sharon as well. And it's just so invigorating, right? But it is about helping others, because it's a tough job being a CEO, and you and I have both been in that corner pocket, and it's tough. And if you look ahead the next couple of years, it's going to be a little turbulent. So, helping people through this. So that's what we do, bring CEOs together to learn from each other, best practice each other, and help each other get to where they want to go.
Interesting. So, let's start with maybe the basics, but I want to get into that, as you see the future. When you engage with a CEO, what would be the top, two or three things that you see, hey, there's a couple of things that got you stuck that we might want to work on. What are those top things that you see, John, when you're engaging with CEOs?
Well, yeah, there are some top things. I would say the top thing is around people, around talent. That's the top thing I see. Certainly the economy and what's going to happen, what's around the corner with the economy, interest rates, et cetera, is on people's mind. But I ask every CEO when they're coming into CEO Global Network, it's kind of part of the interview that we do while they're interviewing us, we're interviewing them. And there's three questions I ask every CEO. Mm-hmm. And the first one is, if you could have one decision back that you've made in the last year, which one is it? Mm. And most of the time, Jim, it's around a people decision. I would say 70% of the time is, I wouldn't have made that hire, I would, and it's usually around a hire.
Yeah.
Or a promotion or a type of thing. But which one would you like back?
Yeah, that's a great question. I may steal that question, John. Sorry, but it's a great question.
Go ahead. You go ahead. The second question, though, and this is really to your point about what's on their mind. And that is, the second question is, what are the two biggest decisions you need to make in the next 6 to 9 months? So every CEO, we ask that, what are the two biggest decisions you need to make next 6 to 9 months? And quite often it is around people at the top. I mean, we're not talking about, we're talking about hiring at the senior level onto the management team, but it is also around, what I'm hearing lately, Jim, is do I invest that capital, given the situation out there? Or do I wait? Do I buy that company now, or should I just sit in the bush for a little while? So there is some uncertainty, Jim, that's out there. I don't know whether you see that too, but that's something that's really, really big. The other thing, of course, I mean, everybody on the call knows this. People are talking about AI. Where is that going? I mean, technology. Everybody. We had a speaker about a month ago come in and talk about AI. Where is it going? And he said to me, right? He said, 6 months ago, people, and he's an expert. Ajay Agrawal is his name. He's a worldwide expert on AI. There's a number of them out there, but he's a great guy. And he said 6 months ago, CEOs would ask me, tell me about AI. What is it? That type of thing. And today he says they don't ask me about that anymore. They just ask me, how do I do it?
Oh, wow.
It's not do I do it? It's how I do it. And as he said, some people will sit on the fence and not embrace the, artificial intelligence in your business. He said, but they'll regret it. The people that'll really benefit is people who embrace it and integrate it into their business. So that's another thing that's really up there on CEOs' minds, is how best to do that.
Interesting. I'm still, when I talk to CEOs about that, they're really looking for the best use cases for AI, because it's not for everything, right? It's great at certain things. And what they're trying to find out, and this is where the roadmap needs to develop over time as we experiment with where does it really do the job. And they want to deploy it in that area. I actually saw an interview with a guy the other day that said 5 years from now, there will be no software programmers, which is,
that's interesting, eh?
Well, but you've seen that AI can code. It's scary. If it's
I could do a lot of stuff.
It's scary.
Absolutely. Don't forget, Kim, just before you ask me another question, the third question that I ask every CEO, the third question is, what's the number one thing you need to get better at as the CEO of your business to take it where you want to take it, right? Because we all have a vision for our business. So what's the number one thing you need to get better at? Because there's no such thing as a perfect leader, right? I mean, we're all, and one reason that we're in this business, that we're in peer groups and we're helping people get to where they want to go, is, it's a lifelong journey, right? And so that's a very interesting one.
What kind of answers do you get to that question, John? What kind of answers do you get? Because it's a great question. What are they, when you say
it's a great question?
What do you hear?
Well, here are the top three answers I hear to that question. Okay, the top three answers that I hear to that question are, I've got to do a better job at holding people accountable.
Yep, I agree. Yep.
I just don't do a good job at that. I got to get better at that.
Yep.
Well, you're in a peer group, you're going to learn that. You're going to learn, because you'll see people that are very good at it, right? That's the value of a peer group, because, collectively, the perfect CEO just might sit at the table, but there's maybe a dozen people that they represented. Eh? So I hear that for sure. I hear that a lot. I do hear that I have to do a better job at the hiring decision. We tend to, it's all about hire slow, fire fast. People do the reverse. CEOs do the reverse.
Yeah.
Do they not?
I did for years. I can admit it. Yeah.
Guilty as charged. I mean, I'm the same way, right? Because as CEOs, we care about people. We deeply care about people. And it's one of the major reasons we start a business is it's not about the money. It's about, hey, I want to help other people get to where they want to go, and they can be part of this and that type of thing. And so quite often, so I do hear that quite a bit in terms of the decision that the thing they got to get better. I got to get better at that. The other thing too, though, and I can really relate to this one because I battled this all my life, and that is balance. And that's different things to different people, isn't it? It's different things to different people. Like for me, balance is 7 days a week, Jim, but it's not right. It's not right. And so, but I do hear that, I've got to figure out a way to spend more time, for myself, on my health, with my family, with friends, with whatever it is that they want to do. And, it's tough, because when you're passionate about something, you just want to make it happen, right?
Yeah.
And but you got to take care of yourself. So it's important, for me, I've got people checking my backswing saying, hey, you've got to you've got to take some time, John. And it works. Having people check your backswing works, having them hold you accountable on stuff that's important. So those are the big things that I hear.
Nice. I've written one of my most popular articles I ever wrote was about balance, right? How to live a balanced life and think about it. But interesting enough, I wrote another one more recently, which was, and this is what the problem is. If you want to achieve anything really interesting, you're not going to live a balanced life.
Well, that's
like the people that achieve incredibly high things are completely out of balance. Like they are, take an Olympic athlete. They are maniacally focused on being an Olympic athlete. Take a CEO. They are maniacally focused at being great at that job, the good ones.
Right.
And so you go, yeah, I want balance, but I want to perform at the 0.1% level. Like those two things are, I'm going to say, impossible or nearly impossible to put together. So it's a real conundrum. It really is.
You used the word, and it just reminds me of and I've got this typed. I have this typed up by my desk, okay, because it's a quote from my mentor, and I have a couple of mentors, including you, Jim. But this is by a guy, Rick McClellan, who's on our team, and he built a company called Dynamics Inc. Which is a last mile company. I think you said you might know him, or you knew somebody that worked with him. But he made a comment. I think it's a Drucker quote that a successful entrepreneur is a monomaniac on a mission.
Yep.
Monomaniac on a mission, And there's a lot of truth to that, isn't there?
There is. And then you go, oh, by the way, I want to be balanced and a maniac. Like, yeah, that's hard, really hard. It is. So when you bump in, so I love the 3 questions to figure out if somebody's a fit. How do you decide, like, politely, you are not for you, or you're not for us? Because we do the same thing. We really are careful. We think part of the product is the quality of the people and the commitment 100%. Of the people. And so we're pretty careful about who we let in. So I got a view on this, but I'm really interested on you. So, like, what would be the sort of red flags that say, yeah, no, this individual is not for us, or we're not for him? What are those for you, John?
Well, there's a couple of red flags that come up in those 3 questions,
Right.
So, for example, and that's why we ask. We're looking for that red flag.
Yeah,
we don't want the red flag, but we got our antennae are up. So here's the thing: if you could have one decision back you made in the last year, this is a CEO of a company, right?
Yeah.
If you could have one back you made in the last year, which one is it?
And the bad answer is every decision was perfect, right?
And they say to me, John, I really can't think of one. Are you kidding me? You're running a business and you can't think of one you want back. Well, that's a red flag for me.
Yeah, okay, that's good.
And then if you want to flip to the 3rd question, and that is, the number one thing you want to get better at, what you look for here is the deflection answer. They're deflection answers, and they're kind of like answers that you would get in an interview, right? Where somebody, the number one thing they want to get better at is real fluffy, right? Yeah. Like, well, I just got to work at listening better, right? Or I've got to do a better job at getting my people to get the work done or something. Yeah, but what about you? What's the number one thing you want to get better at?
Right.
So you look for substance there. And if you don't get it, the other thing, I don't know whether you've had this experience, but I have. And that is if you don't show up on time. Like, if you're late, you're late.
Yeah.
Right? And so I watch for that because, Susan Scott, who wrote a great book called Fierce Conversations.
Yep.
You've read it, but it's a must read for everybody on this call, right? Fierce Conversations, how relationships are built or destroyed one conversation at a time.
Yeah, wow.
And I think I don't know whether she was quoting somebody, but I always say it was her that quoted this. And that is, how you do anything is how you do everything.
Interesting. Yeah.
So, and I'm a big guy on you know me, I mean, I'm a big guy on etiquette and decorum, and I just think that there is I think that's important. So, it's like, it's in a peer group meeting, like, are you there on time?
Mm-hmm.
You come in late. Well, if you take a look at who's coming in late, it's always the same person coming in late.
Every dang time, man.
Every time it's the same person coming. They live their life late. And I know guys who have lost their marriage by showing up late, not to the church, but later on, you know what I mean? But
Wow.
yeah, like it just, because it's not a good trait, right?
No.
So,
I'll tell you what, neither of us are going to do well in South America if we feel like this. Definition of on time is very different there,
That's probably true. But we're talking, the focus here is like, when you're inviting someone to become part of the network, right? Part of, what's so important in terms of helping others succeed, you gotta have, this is an overused word, but a very important word, and it is empathy, right? Empathy is really important, right? And you hear it all the time, but one of the things about empathy is respecting other people's time.
Yeah.
And so anyway, those are some of the other thing is, do you get a one-word answer to those three questions, or do you get a paragraph?
Right.
It's 6 pages. Well, it all tells you something. So
interesting.
They're pretty good indicators.
The couple that we like are one is can you identify one major responsibility you delegated in the last 6 months?
Well, that's
what we're looking for is, as the company grows, they're sort of shedding responsibilities underneath them, so that makes room for them to do more valuable stuff, right?
Yes.
That's another one we like is
that's a good one, Jim.
Thanks. Yeah. Well, we've both been doing this a while, John. So, it wasn't the first question we came up with. No. The other one is, can you identify something you've learned and deployed to improve your business in the last 6 months?
Oh, I like that.
That one's interesting because once in a while you get these individuals and they go, I'm more in the teaching phase of my life than the learning phase of my life. I'm like, are you dead? I mean, like, when does that start? Right. So
they peaked at perfect at age 50, right?
Yeah, right. I know. I just figured out how screwed up I was at 50, right? So, so we need those lifelong learners that are committed to getting better. They don't think they have all the answers. And then the other one we're looking for in our questioning, well, we do ask an hours thing. How many hours a week do you work? And we do that for a couple of reasons. One, and if the answer is 80, we're like, red flag. They're not thinking about the use of their time effectively. They're probably not in control of their time, and they probably couldn't commit to a peer group, by the way.
Right. That was
actually the genesis of great CEOs are lazy. I'm like, when I ask that question and they go, 50, 60, depends on what's going on. I'm like, okay, he or she is in control of their responsibilities. They get their job done in a rational amount of time. The one that's like maxed out all the time, I'm like, they're not. And generally, they weren't very good CEOs too. It's weird. They went together.
Well, there'd be a correlation, eh? There'd be a correlation in terms of that's interesting, and it's a reflection of their team, don't you think, Jim? In terms of, is it a reflection of their team? Because if you got a good group of people around you, you're comfortable handing stuff off, right? And
it could be two things. I find it yes, definitely. Yeah. I mean, if somebody profiled like that, our first move was, let's talk about your talent. Let's talk about who you got around. Why do you feel you need to hold these things? Is it because you don't have the right level of talent around you? That's definitely one. But there's another, which is there are CEOs that they're just control freaks. They don't trust anybody.
Oh, no, that's right. Absolutely.
Right. And they could have amazing people around them and they're still holding it all super tight, which by the way, we talk about this point of constraint. What's stopping your business? Like, what's stopping your business? You are.
Yeah, they're the constraint. Yeah, no, 100%. That just reminds me of something, Jim, too, in terms of one of the things you look for when you invite someone to become part of a group.
Yeah.
You are looking for, and we see that in the how they answer the three questions. And you're looking for transparency. You're looking for some transparency and people who are real. They're real. Like they're not trying to be something they're not, type of thing, right? And I think that's important in terms of really tapping into the wisdom of other people, right?
Yeah. The other sort of soft one is, and one of my partners calls it the golf cart test.
Okay, the golf cart.
He says, would I want to spend 4 or 5 hours in a golf cart with this person? Like, just are they a nice human being? Are they somebody I would like to be around? And if the answer is like, ugh, I'd rather have a dental appointment, then the answer is pass, right? So golf cart test is interesting too.
A golf cart test is good. Yeah. One of the ways I say that is when you interview somebody, to come in on the team, would you, if you worked all night on a project, would you want to have breakfast with them after?
Oh, wow. Oh,
that's kind
cool
of the thing.
I like that one. I like that one.
Kind of, that's similar. That's kind of similar.
Very interesting.
But that's very interesting. Yeah. You're looking for people that are that do want to learn, but you look for people who care about other people, because it is a team, right? And I'm talking about the peer group now. And so that's why those questions and your questions are just so important.
Yeah. So, the thing that I think is interesting about the business, it's such a high trust environment that we are able to establish. I mean, people get like really naked, like personal, business, all like it just laid out there, And I think, I got to say, I'm not completely certain how we do it, but how do you establish that high trust environment where people are really willing to disclose in a way they really almost don't in anywhere else in their life? How do you get there? What tools do you use?
Well, I think the leader goes first.
Yeah, I hear you. Yep.
Hey, like I think we have to lead the way on that. I get, who was it? Was it somebody wrote the book "Leaders Eat Last"? But yeah. I think in terms of establishing the trust, it starts with the relationship with the leader of the group, and it would be the same thing in a company with the management team and the CEO. It's the CEO has got to step up and show some vulnerability. It's the vulnerability based trust, isn't it? The Lencioni stuff, the vulnerability based trust. If like, I don't have all the answers. I'm not the person with all the answers. I'm a human being here. And I think that goes a long way, Jim, in starting in getting the trust in the room. It starts with the person that is the leader of the group or the CEO, and then people will follow suit most of the time. But some people are always, I don't know about what in your experience, but some people always play their cards close to their vest.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they just don't, and that can go a long way. That can go right back to their childhood. I mean, who knows why people are why they are? I mean, quite often it does go way back, but that's part of the magic as well. You've got different people from different backgrounds, and they bring their stuff, right?
Yeah, interesting. We, I think two things. One is, and it's a little bit of a societal comment, that it's so surface, a lot of society, that people are actually seeking genuine connection like that. And when you create an environment where they can get genuine connection with other people that do what they do, so they get it, right? Like, oh my gosh, it's like an oasis in the desert if you do it right. So
100%. There's a thirst.
And then there's another little technique we use. It's a stupid little game, but this is something anybody could use in their company as they try to build trust. We always play 2 truths and a lie our first dinner. You know the game?
No, I don't think so.
It's just really simple, like icebreaker thing, but it's a tradition in our organization. First dinner, when everybody gets together, they don't know each other for beans, right? We know them, but they don't know each other. We're going to play a game. At the end, towards the end of dinner, after you had a cocktail or two, we're going to play a game. You're going to tell 2 truths about yourself and 1 lie. So 3 things about yourself. And we've got to pick out which one is the lie. It is, honest to God, it's a blast. You find things out about people. I remember one guy, he says, one of his it was a truth. I was treed by a pack of hyenas on my 32nd birthday in the desert of Africa.
Oh, in Botswana or something, right? Delta.
Another guy was like, I've been to every Major League Baseball and every minor league baseball stadium in the United States. And I almost bought the Orioles with somebody else. Like,
really?
Just crazy stuff about these people. So we find that fun because now they're starting.
That is fun.
they're starting to disclose. It's nothing that's going to get anybody in any trouble, but now we get to know each other. So that's the beginning of sort of getting to that high trust environment for us, at least. So
yeah, that's a good way to do it. That's a good tool for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, feel free
I
to
like
steal
that.
it. I didn't come up with it. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. I will. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so John, when you engage in peer groups with people, obviously we're both fans of them, but what kind of do you see the major values to somebody being involved in it? And what are sort of the transformations that you see as a result of being involved?
Well, I think there's three big reasons to be involved with a peer group,
Yep.
and they just bounce off the page, and it gets to, running a business at any time has been very complex. But if you take a look at the future, next 5 years, 3 years, pick a number, it's just getting more complex all the time. Technology is just making it more complex. Things are happening faster, and so the big thing is the loneliness of the job. I mean, as a CEO, can you imagine being a CEO and not having a peer group to talk to?
Well, I always did when I ran various companies. So no, not for me. Well, I can imagine it, but I didn't do it. So
You didn't do it. And
yeah.
so so I think that's number one.
Yeah.
Is because it's a place to talk about your biggest challenges. It's a place to talk about your biggest victories.
Yep.
Who do you going to talk to your golf buddies about the fact you just sold a business for $100 million or whatever that is? Or who are you going to talk to about that? Who are you going to talk to about your 3 o'clock in the morning thing, right? Like you're not going to bother your family with that. You're not going to talk to your buddies about that. And oh by the way, who is going to keep a CEO accountable?
Yeah.
At the office, all their jokes are funny. Right, all their jokes are funny.
I was way funnier when I was running a business.
Yeah, me too. And more dangerously, all your ideas are good.
Yeah.
So you need a group of people who are going to say, "Wait a second, John, that's a dumb idea," and they mean it because they care about you. They're not too smart or anything like that. So I think the loneliness. I think having a place to bring your biggest decisions before you got to make them.
Yep.
And having a group of people that are smart too. Check your backswing and say, as I said, it's not a good idea, John. I wouldn't do it, or I would. It gives you confidence. I would do that. I think it's a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing is, it's around professional growth and getting better. As we talked earlier, there's no such thing as a perfect CEO. It's a lifelong journey, and there's always something we can get better at. It's the aggregation of marginal gains. It's like the athletes, the best athletes. Look at the best golfers in the world. They're always on the range, and they got 6 coaches, right? Yep. And so it's just a continual improvement thing, and the speed of the leader is the speed of the company, and so you got to keep on getting better along the way. Well, those are the benefits. You're also going to make better decisions if you got somebody checking your backswing.
Interesting. Yeah, I support all that. Obviously, we see the biggest impact we see is a transformation of their business model over time.
Well,
From, frankly, a kind of a crummy one to a really good one. I got one particular member I'm thinking of. He came to us and he was probably doing $150 million of revenue and maybe making $2 million. That's okay, but it's a lot of work for $2 million.
That's a lot of work for $2 million.
And it took a decade. Okay, fair enough. But we helped him transform his business model. He's now maybe 200 million, so not a lot bigger in revenue, but he makes like $55 million in profit.
Not bad, eh?
Right? What do they say? Drive-ins for show and
25% bottom line.
Drive-ins for show, puttons for dough, man. It's you'd rather have the profit than the revenue. So and that was all about business model transformation and changing how he thought about his business and changing how he thought about the talent around his business, not just us, but us and all the, good CEOs around that individual. So,
well, and you're absolutely right. And to that point, how many entrepreneurs don't have a business plan, don't have a strategic plan? Like, how the heck do you have a chance if you don't know where you're going, right? And how you're going to get there? I mean, so I remember I was given a talk once a number of years ago, and there were probably 200 entrepreneurs in the room, and I asked them that question: how many in this room have a business plan that they use, a strategic plan that that's live. And like 10% of the room put their hand up. Right?
Whoa.
Yeah. It's a shocking number. It's a shocking number.
Interesting.
And you just got to have it. You got to have,
in my book, I used a quote from Alice in Wonderland. And
okay.
So Alice meets the Cheshire Cat. There's a fork in the road, and the Cheshire Cat appears. And she goes, Cheshire Cat, which road should I take? Which path should I take? And the Cheshire Cat goes, it depends. Where are you trying to go? And she goes, well, I don't really know. And he goes, well, then it doesn't matter which path you take. And that's sort of like no business plan or no direction. I get a path. I go, which one do I take? I go, well, you don't know where you're going. It doesn't matter which one you take, right?
Yeah, so no, that's very true.
Interesting. We do occasionally make a mistake on bringing somebody in, and it is really interesting how it goes down when we do. First of all, the group will object. Like, sure. He or she is just not at the right level.
Not a spur.
No, right? It's not going to work, right? But the really interesting one, and this is maybe a sorting question, is do you want and can you take direct feedback? Like really direct feedback.
Yeah, because you're going to get it. You're going to get it here.
Right.
In the group, yeah.
And I've seen people show up and go, yeah, I want. And then they get direct feedback and we never see them again. Like, gone. That's the end of it. They just didn't want
it. I'm not coming back. Well, that's it. It's very interesting. And I remember the first time, I lived in Orange County for a long, long time, California. And I was part of a peer group there back in the 90s. I'm an oil man by background. And I remember going to not my first meeting, but the first meeting where I brought an issue to the table.
Right.
And I got to tell you, I was sweating bullets. Like I was sweating bullets. I mean, it's tense, eh? It's tense. But boy, you realize when people are leaning in on your particular opportunity, how much they care about it. It's just so reassuring. And but you're right. I mean, for some, they don't want that feedback, but I got all kinds of feedback. I remember the sweat was going down my back, right? But it was worthwhile because they weren't taking it easy on me.
Good. You don't want
You don't want that. No, you're there to get honest feedback.
And the other thing I like about it is when you have a diversity of, like, one's a marketing person and a finance person and the kind of core specialty, they're going to look at the problem differently than you do. So all those blind spots that we have as leaders, because we kind of came up a certain way, they go, particularly if they know you over time, they go, Jim, you did this 2 years ago and it screwed up and you're about to do it again. You go,
do it again.
Son of a gun. You're right. Damn it.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
They got clarity. They got clarity that where we may not, right?
Yeah. I remember one member who was the most unfocused guy we've ever had. He's not the most, but one of the highly unfocused people we had. And he starts giving feedback to another member and he's going, listen, you've got to just focus and pick one thing. And the entire group turned and just started laughing at him. Because
hold up the mirror, right?
You've got to take your own advice, my friend.
Yeah, that could happen for sure. That could happen. No
so John, I know you're a maniac on this, but what do you do for fun?
Well, we've got a place in the country.
Nice.
Okay? And I'm calling in from there today, north of Toronto.
Nice.
We've got a place in Toronto right down in the finance district too. But when COVID hit, we started spending a lot more time out here, and so I'm into bird photography.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, cool. I guess I never told you that. Eh?
You never did. This is cool.
I am into bird photography. Actually went to Botswana, Africa, Okavango Delta a couple of years ago on a bird photography safari, and ended up falling in love with the big cats that I saw there. But that's what I do, and we got property in behind, and lots of woodlot out there, lots of songbirds, and so. Any particular day, Jim, you can find me out there doing that, right? Taking some photos out there. So that's one of the things I do.
I learned something new. That is super cool. Yeah. I just downloaded the Cornell app, which is
absolutely.
It's a great app, right? What it does is, for those that don't know, it allows you to identify bird songs. So you just let it listen. and then it'll tell you it's called Merlin Bird ID.
Yeah,
And it'll tell you what birds
got
are.
it
You
here.
could probably, I was going to say, you probably know. I don't know them. So
Yeah. No, I don't know them. I know some of them. I don't know them all, but I have the app on my phone too. So. Yeah. No, for sure. Yeah.
Well, awesome,
so
John. This was what's that? Go ahead. Yeah. What else?
I was just going to say that's one thing I do. I'm really into sports. I love sports of all kind, and I'm a spectator. Used to play them, now I spectate, right? But that type of thing. But anyway, just it is important to have things like that in your life that you can go to. Family is very important to me too, Jim. You know that. Yeah. My daughter works with me in the business, which is really cool. She's the brains of the business. So yeah. So
nice.
It's been great being with you today, Jim. Just wonderful.
Yeah. Well, thank you, John. This was way fun. And as always, a great time. And I learned some stuff and enjoyed it. So thank you.
Well, I learned from you too, Jim. You know that. Yeah.
All right, buddy. Thank you so much.
That. Yeah. Take care. Bye now. Bye, everybody. Bye now.
This podcast is brought to you by the CEO Project. At the CEO Project, we work with CEOs to help them grow their business. And our members represent billions of dollars of revenue and profit. And frankly, amongst all of us, we've probably made every mistake in the book, including some you haven't made yet. So if you want to learn from the experience of a bunch of really seasoned CEOs, we're a great place to hang out. In this podcast, what you're going to hear are some of those ideas, concepts, and things that are just going to help you on your journey. If you want to find out more, reach out to us at theceoproject.com, or you can contact me personally at jim@theceoproject.com. Happy listening.
Thanks for listening to the Lazy CEO podcast. We'll see you next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes, and check out our website, www.theceoproject.com.